It's a pleasure to see everyone here and to see that there's interest in what Creed is trying to do. I think it's a laudable. My voice is not loud enough.
No, it's full. It's louder than mine.
So I think it's very laudable the work Sean is doing and the work Creed is doing. I think I really encourage it and really want to encourage people to participate in the event because the amount of work he puts into this and the output you potentially can get from it is you don't know the value immediately until the opportunity presents itself and you're just like, okay, I'm already prepared because I have partaken in the particular event. So my name is Dr. Rotimi Alabi. I am the founder and managing director of RAB-Microfluidics. RAB-Microfluidics is a technology company that has that automates and digitizes the process of lubricating oil analysis. So we take lubricating oil analysis that you use in rotating machinery and then analyze that in real time so that you are able to give information to engineers who need to know about the health condition of that machinery in real time. So that is what my company does. But today I want to talk to you about my entrepreneurship journey. How did this all start to where we are at the moment? So the first slide is my back against the wall. I started in a very desperate situation. And when I mean desperate, I finished my PhD and I'm well educated. I've reached the highest peak of academic achievement you can reach. So I should be hot cake. People should be looking to employ me. And I started applying for various jobs. And I was getting interviews, and after the interview, nothing else happened. So one day I was working in as an administrator in one organization called RSOH. And an interviewer called me, and he called me and I said, right, I've been receiving these calls. You guys have called me probably 80, 100 times, and it doesn't go far. What is happening? What are really my chances? Level with me. Let me really understand, do I stand a chance? And he told me, your CV is good, but you need sponsorship. And there are many people that have similar CVs like you that don't need sponsorship. When he told me that, I said, thank you very much. That was the last day I applied for a job in the UK. I stopped applying for jobs. I was like, right, I'm not special. I thought I was special, but I'm not special in the eyes of the people that I was looking for to employ me. So I said, what was I going to do? I already thought about entrepreneurship. I already thought about starting my own business, a company to solve a problem. And I was looking at where was I going to start that? And I said, okay, I had a PhD that I had developed something that was very interesting, something that was on the edge of analysis, chemical analysis. And I said, okay, I could use this and actually apply it to practical situations. So I started to research into what practically can I do to give someone value with the knowledge I had. In the midst of thinking about this, my visa was going to expire maybe 60 days from the time I said I was not applying for jobs anymore. So I knew that my time was almost up in the UK. I was preparing to go to Nigeria. I called my dad, called my brother, said, you guys find me something or I'm coming. And my brother was like, what are you talking about? Coming where? People are trying to leave, you're saying you're coming. Like, but I don't have jobs. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is just one shot. I have to make it work. So I said I was going to try and make it work. At this time, I didn't have any money. I had a lot of debt. I was very unstable. But I said I was going to start because I believed that the technology that we had could actually solve a practical problem. So we decided to start. And in starting RAB-Microfluidics, there are a number of different things that I had to consider practically. first thing first is, why did I want to become an entrepreneur? Why did I want to set out and start a business? And the other question I needed to answer was really all of the things that I needed to consider to start it. And this is very relatable if you want to start a business, if you want to start anything down that line. First thing first was I looking for the money, or was there a problem that I had a solution for? And finally, was I looking to drive change? All of those ingredients I had, because I didn't have money. I needed to change my financial situation. And I knew that, okay, maybe that potentially can allow me to change my financial situation. But I didn't really understand how difficult it was going to be initially. Because when I started, I went about a period of maybe 8-10 months without any one dime in the UK. Everybody's in the UK here. You know, immediately you leave Nigeria and land in the UK, your bills start to count. You have to start paying your rent. You have to start paying whatever bills that you incur. And this is me living in the UK, and I didn't earn any money. I told my landlady at the time that I couldn't afford her rent anymore, that I had to leave. And she said she was going to drop the rent. I was like, I don't have money to pay you. But because I had been with her for about 4 years, or no, about 3 years during my PhD, she said, you know what, I'll let you stay till you can pay. So that was an ingredient that helped me in that journey. Then you consider, during my PhD, I was working on a solution. I didn't understand that there was a problem to be solved. So it was after the PhD I had to think about the problem and say, okay, where can I apply this interesting technology that myself and my supervisor had been creating for a few years. And then I stumbled on rotating equipment, lubricating oil, because the problem that they face there is reliability and availability of the equipment. You want to know that the equipment is reliable for it to be available to produce what you need it to produce. So those two ingredients matched. We had that. I also was frustrated during my PhD that if you think about chemistry, chemistry is conducted in a laboratory. If anybody thinks about chemistry, you think about, I need to be in a laboratory, I need to get a beaker, I need to get solvents, I need to get samples, I need to mix them together. You need a technician for all of that. And during my PhD, I was working on a technology that removed the human being from that process, from that wet chemistry process. And I said, okay, this is fundamental. This can actually change the way chemistry is done, because you then move it from requiring experienced technicians in a laboratory environment to where the sample is taken from. That's a big deal. So after considering all of that, I said, okay, right, we're starting on this journey. This is the thing I have to do, regardless of the conditions I face. This is the journey I had to be on. So I started the company. And once I started the company, you start to look for all of the techniques to keep you in the company. I remember speaking to a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, and he says, right, you don't have any options in terms of all of the visa categories. The only thing you can do is apply for further leave to remain, and you're 99.9% guaranteed not to get it. But it buys you time, because that is the bottom hierarchy of the visa categories that people look at. So they don't even look at it, because they know that when they look at your application, they're just going to stamp no. So they don't look at it at all. So it was going to buy us time. So I applied into that category so I could stay on my current visa status and do stuff. So I started the RAB-Microfluidics journey, and I'll tell you part of the story later. What are the other things I needed to consider? I needed to consider my personal circumstance. I needed to consider the challenges ahead. I needed to consider that there was uncertainty, but there was an opportunity. All of those ingredients, I needed to actually deeply consider before I said this was the journey for me. So marrying those two sides of the slide together, I was then saying, right, in terms of challenges ahead, I'm deep into the challenges already. I don't have a choice. I was rock bottom. I said it could only get better from here. Then, personal circumstance was deplorable, was terrible. I was looking for someone's couch to leave, and my landlady gave me a stay of execution. I didn't know what the journey held in front of me at all. But I knew that there was a technology, and potentially that technology could yield somewhere. I decided to take the leap. I decided to take the leap in spite of the uncertainty, in spite of the challenges I knew I was going to face, and I was already deeply ingrained in, but because of the opportunity that lay ahead. Now, when you decide to take the leap, there are a number of things that actually need to start marrying each other for you to have a successful outcome. One of them is you have to have a vision of where you're going. The vision I had was, didn't understand why you needed to send a sample from the field into the laboratory for you to analyze samples. I felt that that was not the efficient way to do it. So I knew that we had to change that. And I said, okay, that's fine. We're going to try and change that. Where are we going to try and change it? In an industry that needed the solution in the field. And that's what we identified, that there was an industry that needed a solution in the field. Then you have to have ambition. When you are rock bottom, you really don't think that there's going to be a grand world out there, because you are really blinkered by the circumstance that you have. But you need to find it deep within yourself to really see beyond your current state. Because your current state does not define you.
That is not obvious what to.
And because it doesn't define you, you need to know that, okay, you can get out of this state. And for you to get out of that state, there's something that needs to drive you from within. And that's the kind of ambition that you need to have. Where do I want to take this? My focus was, I wanted to solve people's problem, the problem that we had identified on a grand scale. That is ambition. This is a solution that does not exist, but you want to solve that problem on a grand scale, globally. And I think that's part of RAB-Microfluidics mission statement, is really addressing lubricating oil problems one equipment at a time on the grand scale. So you have to have that ambition. Then you have to persist. So coming back to the story I started telling you previously, where I got on that journey, didn't have anything to do, applied into a visa category that I was guaranteed not to get the visa. We started on that journey. Then I attended an accelerator program, which Shion was mentioning, was Elevator Accelerator Program. It changed my worldview completely on how to think about business. At the Elevator Accelerator Program, I don't know how much time I have, Shion. I think I'm...
Like 7 minutes left.
Okay, that's fine. At that program, I was a sponge. I was just there to absorb knowledge, absorb information, because I knew what was driving me. I knew that, okay, there's possibility I'm not going to be here next week, but I needed to get all of the knowledge that would put me on the right path to succeed. And I wanted to continue against all odds and say, right, regardless of the situation, I will try and make this a success. So that persistence was required. Then, motivation. When you don't have money and your bills are racking up, you will get out of bed. Solve the problem. So I didn't need anybody to give me a motivational speech. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I still do today. Wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to ensure that all of the things I'm thinking about, all of the things I'm planning to do, I can achieve them. Sometimes I used to complain that, right, 24 hours is not enough. Why don't we have more hours today? Because there are many things I needed to do. I started the company alone, and I was alone in the company for almost 17 months before we hired the first person. I had to be CEO, I had to be CFO, I had to learn how to do finance. I never knew how to do finance in my life. I had to learn balance sheets, I had to learn cash flow, I had to learn P&L. I had to learn HR. All of those skills, you just have to put yourself out there, and you have 24 hours to do it. Plus, you must sleep. So, all of those things, you motivate yourself to get up and get going. And you have to want it badly. I still want it badly because we're not where we want to be. We said the ambition, the vision is to become a global company. We're not there. I still want it badly. So you have that desire within you to keep going. And finally, you have to have the passion. During that journey, we went for a lot of competitions because no one was going to invest in us. We're not going to get investors. So I knew that very early on, that you take your idea to an investor, it's an untested idea, nothing is happening, nobody was going to give us money to do it. But I identified in the UK that there are things called competitions and grants that you can apply to and put yourself out there. We went for all of them. Everything under the sun that you could apply for, we applied for them. We ended up raising around £380,000, or winning £380,000 from competitions, and had grants of about maybe £2.2 million. That's how much we wanted it at the time. So we knew that those are the things that could get us to where we wanted to get to. And the reason I'm saying that is, whilst we were doing the competitions and the grant applications, anytime they interviewed us, what the interviewers told me as feedback is that we see the passion in your eyes. We see that if we give you this money, you will make this money over and over and over again. And that's the thing that, for them, helped them make their decision. That, right, this guy really wants it. He wants it very badly. And we're not going to waste putting our resources into him. Right. After saying all of that, you still have to put in the work. You still have to put in the work. You still have to get up as early as possible, do everything you need to do, be thorough, be rigorous, spend the time. And I give a bit of insight as to what you need to consider on an entrepreneurship journey. If anybody here, I actually wanted to ask the question, how many people here have aspirations of starting up a business or going down the entrepreneurship line? With a show of hands, please. So we have a good size number. So this slide is really structuring what you need to think about. First thing first is you need to consider the customer. The customer is, whose problem are you trying to solve? Because if you're not solving anybody's problem, nobody will patronize you. And we have a weird concept about thinking about problems or challenges, where everybody's saying, oh, we don't want problems. We really do want problems because someone will solve the problems. So you want to really be attuned to who has a problem. What is the scale of that problem? Is that problem localized to one person, or does everybody have this problem? Then think about, how do you solve that problem for that person? So think about who the customer is. Then build a team. Initially, because of how I started, it was difficult for me to build a team. I told you the first time I got someone on board was 17 months later. And that's because I didn't have that knowledge of how to incentivize people to join you when you didn't have money to pay them. So I had to learn that skill as we went along. So the first two people I hired, we're paying them minimum wage. These are graduates, by the way. We're paying them minimum wage. One of them was below minimum wage. And the lawyers called me and said, that's illegal. That's slavery. That I cannot do that. I said, but I've given him options. I've given him shares in the company. I said, no, you have to pay him. I said, I don't have money to pay him. We won a competition that and allowed us to end up paying him anyways. But we had to move him beyond that. So you're there as a founder trying to convince people to come on this journey where you have no background, no history, but you want them to take that leap of faith with you and work for nothing, more or less. You have to have a deep belief before you can do that. You don't have belief in your own self that this is the way to go. Nobody will join you on that journey. But you need to build your team. It is important because, like I said, 24 hours is not enough. You need more people to help you to do more. Then you have to consider market research. So you're looking at how big is the market? What market are you going to target first? How do you address that market? Is there enough of that market for you to actually create a scalable company? Then you start to think about who else is competing out there. Because if you don't think about your competition, you might create a product that has already been created. Or you might decide that the latent state of do nothing is your competition. And some people prefer not to do anything. So you have to consider all of that before you then focus on the product. Before you then focus on building your product. You have to understand all of that. And finally, I tell people that once you have a very good idea and you have a roadmap for executing, you will get the money. The money is not the issue at all. If you can find a big enough problem, have a team around you, understand the market and the competition, someone will be willing to give you the money. And I know that for a fact because since founding RAB-Microfluidics, we have raised £5.5 million. So someone will give you the money. And there's some books that you can actually read that will give you an insight on how to start. So some of the practical steps on how to start an enterprise. You also need to get the right information. So these are some of the companies that have helped us on our journey. The speakers earlier have said you need to know how to network and be involved in the ecosystem because it is that ecosystem that actually allows you to grow. So some of the companies that have assisted us in our journey are listed here. I don't have our investors there. And finally, trust your decision. So Steve Jobs said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that somehow the dots will connect in your future. You have to believe in something. Thankfully for all of us here, we believe in God. He will put us through. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.